there's only one 900 culvert at Huxley that goes underneath the tracks, which carries all that water out of town. So we try to alleviate flooding as much as possible. And one other thing, I just wanted to show some of council, the GPS system that we use. It's from TELUS. It's called Fleet Complete. So this is just basically a snapshot of what we can see a grader do. We can do it by time, day. This is basically 1 day snapshot of a grader down south. So all the green arrows basically is telling what direction he's going. You can click on any one of those arrows and it tells you the exact time the grader's there, how fast he's going, and then the blue, it's an idle. Solid green means he's stopped somewhere, and that stop is longer than 10 minutes. Other than that, it'll just show as a blue idle. So in that, we can blow that right up and get right down to a person's residence, to which highway. So a lot of these, all the graders are equipped with this GPS system. All our sand trucks are, and same with our gravel trucks. So some of the questions we get in the grader in the summer, never seen a grader for 2 months. We always refer back to this system, and hopefully we can answer that question, whether he's right or we're right. So gravel trucks are another big one on the roads. You get 5, 6 gravel trucks running on the road. They're doing 80 kilometers. It seems like they're doing about 120 to a resident. So we'll go back, we can click on that. Those green arrows are basically every minute we'll get a ping and it'll tell us. We can set parameters around there if they're idling longer than 2 hours. Those it'll send an email directly. We don't have to look it up. It'll send an email saying this grader is stopped for 2 hours. And that's kind of part of our working alone policy. So that way we can see if a grader is stuck somewhere. If you get into a non-coverage area, especially in that Division 1, it stores all that information. When it comes out of the valley, it dumps all the information and tells us where he's been. So it's like, not that we don't lose it, it does record that information in those non-coverage areas. So that's just kind of the meat and potatoes of what happened. I just wanted to give you guys kind of what this GPS system does as new counselors, just that we can track quite a bit of information from it. So is there any questions?
No questions, but I want to thank you and you guys for the work. There was a lot of snow.
Thank you. Yes, I've passed that on to the staff. Basically 11 graders. We had every division was covered with the spare grader. We did have some sick personnel people out there, along with we had basically 5 plow trucks out with the 11 graders, so 16 running. So
the flood in Torrington on Saturday morning, we're not getting blamed for it.
Councillor Keever, no, we're not going to blame for the flood in Torrington on Saturday, but the ice that was caused, we were.
Well, thanks, Brad. Really appreciate the work that you and your staff do to keep our residents moving down the road. I know you're concerned about the melting of the snow. On the other hand, I would love to see some of this snow disappear. So good luck with keeping those culverts open, and thanks for the report. Are there any questions from council? If not, maybe we can have a motion to move for information.
I'll move for a report to be admitted as information.
Okay, we got a motion to move for information. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. We'll go to 5.3.1, bylaw 1757. Welcome, Barb.
Morning, Mr. Reeve and Council. Just wanted you to be aware we received an application for an amendment to the land use bylaw. So very first public hearing, I guess, for some of you. The request is to amend from Agriculture District to Agriculture Business District. Ross and Rayanne Benedict, as well as Stephanie and Mika Faulkner, have applied to redesignate a 23-acre portion of the northeast of 33426 west of 4 from Agriculture District to Agriculture Business District. The subject parcel is located directly southwest of the Wimborne Gas Plant and is bound by Highway 805 on the east. The purpose of the application is to subdivide out a 23-acre parcel for the purpose of a commercial arena. Under the current land use bylaw 1718, redesignation is required to subdivide a larger parcel for a specific agricultural business. This parcel currently has an outdoor arena area, a couple smaller hay fields, as well as a stand of trees. If the subdivision is approved, this parcel will incorporate both hay fields and the outdoor arena area. The commercial riding arena is considered a discretionary use in the agricultural business district, and the district permitted and discretionary uses have been noted for your information. The cost for this redesignation is borne by the developer, and it's $800. Prior to the public hearing, notifications will be sent to all adjacent landowners, and notice will be posted in the Three Hills Capital and on our website. And it is linked to the strategic plan for safe and viable communities to enable growth possibilities through the land use bylaw. Attached, you will see a copy of the proposed bylaw as well as the site plan that is attached to that bylaw. Recommended action is council move first reading of the proposed bylaw 1757 for the purpose of amending the land use bylaw 1718 by redesignating a portion of the northeast of 33426 west of 4 from the agriculture district to agricultural business district. And then council moved to schedule the public hearing as per section 606 of the Municipal Government Act to be held on April 10th, 2018 at 10 a.m.
Thanks, Barb. Everybody understands what we're doing here. We're just doing a bylaw so we can get the process started. So if we could have someone move first reading to bylaw 1757.
Okay, I would move first reading of bylaw 1757, amending land use bylaw 1718.
We have a motion on the table. Councillor King, are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. We're also going to need to schedule the public hearing, and looks like April the 10th at 10 a.m. So if we could have a motion for that.
I would make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Christie. We've got a motion to schedule a public hearing as per section 606 of the Municipal Government Act to be held on April 10th, 2018 at 10 a.m. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to 5.5.1, Protective Services. Welcome, Deb. Sounds like you really got over your cold.
Good morning, Council. I bring to you today a request for decision, appointment of Fire Chief and Deputy Fire Chief of the Torrington Fire Hall. As per bylaw 1712, Kneehill County Council must appoint the Fire Chief and Deputy Fire Chief of our district fire department, which is Torrington. Section 3.5 of that bylaw says where council establishes a fire department to provide fire protection in a fire district, council will appoint a fire chief and a deputy fire chief of that department as recommended by the CAO. The appointment will be reviewed on a 2-year basis. The recommendation from the CAO for fire chief is Doug Fretz and deputy fire chief is Jason Mickelson. Engagement Consultative discussion with the Protective Services Department, Torrington Fire. Informative, the FMC committee and all other fire departments in the area, as well as shared information with the Kneehill County staff. Link to strategic plan, safe and viable communities. Recommended action that Kneehill County Council appoints Doug Fretz as fire chief and Jason Mickelson as deputy fire chief of Torrington Fire Department until March 1st, 2020. Should the member of the department leave, their position will be deemed vacant immediately.
Thanks, Deb. What's council's wishes?
I make motion that we appoint Doug Fretz as fire chief and Jason Mickelson as deputy of Torrington until March 1st, 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Keever. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thanks, Deb. Okay, we'll go along to new business, 8.1 AAMD&C spring resolutions. They are in our package. You're taking this out.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, members of council. 8.1 is the biannual AAMD&C resolutions, this one in particular for the spring sitting of the convention. The AAMD&C represents rural municipalities in meeting with government and ensures that provincial and federal decision makers, as well as industry and other relevant stakeholders, understand and incorporate the best interests of rural Alberta in their policies. The resolutions will be presented during the resolution session of the AMDC Spring 2018 Convention are attached for council to review. The recommended actions, the council received this as information, and I would just kind of highlight the resolutions. There's 12 of them at the Spring Convention. The first one, and probably of the highest priority, is a request for the implementation of the 2018 assessment year modifier for well and pipeline assessments. That particular freeze by the minister on the AYMs at 2016 levels has a net cost to this municipality of approximately $1.8 million. The municipality hardest hit in the province is the MD of Greenview. That the AYM freeze for them had a cost to them of just slightly less than $6 million in actual seen revenue. We have sent a letter at council's direction to the minister. I believe the Reeve signed that last week and off it went. You can see the resolution itself. In my meetings at the ARMA board, speaking to the assistant deputy minister, it's unlikely there will be any change this year, but in any event, it will be a resolution on the floor, and I'm certain that several councillors throughout the province will be wanting to speak directly to the minister at the convention at the Bear Pit Wednesday of next week. The second resolution is combating rural crime. That's been sponsored by Lacombe County. Again, fairly significant. The third one is the increased Crown Prosecutor staffing levels for rural municipalities. That was also in news yesterday. If anybody was watching, the part of the problem they're having is actually finding prosecutors who want to move to rural Alberta. And number 4, support for continuation of grant funding for agriculture initiative program. Number 5 is provincial government consultation and communication protocol with municipalities. 6 is wind energy regulations. 7 is standards for buildings contaminated by fentanyl and carfentanil. 8 is amendments required for provincial recycling regulations. 9 is exemption of seniors housing from the requirement to pay carbon levy. 10 is the 10-year extension requirements for unconventional developments. 11 is the recycling of solar panels, and 12 is victim service units funding. So those are the 12 resolutions that will be on the floor for convention, I believe, Tuesday of next week.
Thanks, Al. Does anyone want to discuss any one of these while we're here before we get to Edmonton?
I would like to see us touch on the wind energy regulation, okay, for the, their biggest thing is orphan windmills. So my question is, what do we feel as a county? We have some in our county.
Mr. Members of Council, the resolution itself is therefore be it resolved, the Alberta Association of Municipal Districts and Counties requests the Government of Alberta to undertake the creation of a renewable energy division within the AER to approve, regulate, and enforce the responsible development, reclamation, and assessment of renewable energy projects in the province of Alberta. Further be it resolved that renewable energy projects formally proceeding into the review and approval stage of the above noted renewable energy division are to be corporately approved and construction-ready projects, not speculative or conditional in any way. And further be it resolved that the AAMDNC requests the Government of Alberta to set up and enforce the collection of monetary funds towards the implementation of an orphan turbine fund to oversee potential future reclamation of abandoned turbine sites.
So it's the AER that has the responsibilities here. Well, I guess we're trying to get the AER to set up orphan well, not an orphan well fund, but an orphan windmill fund. So I guess if that's the direction we'd like to go, then I guess we know we have to vote on the affirmative side on this one. Are there any comments to that?
The windmills we have now, the tax base is on a declining balance. There's nothing in that contract at all, development permit, that would force them to clean up or anything like that.
Mr. Reeve, members of council, I'm not sure I don't have that information in front of me. It's unlikely, but I will certainly find that out and bring that back to council.
Thanks, Al. We will be able to ask those questions when we get into the resolution section of the convention.
So is the anticipation that in the future we're going to see a similar resolution related to solar energy developments? Certainly, from our point of view, it could be a concern for us relatively quickly as well. So.
Well, we'll have the ability to discuss this stuff at the resolution sessions. For right now, I guess we're all aware of what's coming up. The emergent will be presented to us there, and I would assume there's probably going to be one or two emergents coming up. Could we have a motion to receive this as information, or is there any more questions on this?
I'll move to receive this as information.
Thanks, Councillor McGee. Had a motion on the table to receive for information. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to 8.2, policy 18-4. Who's presenting this out? Deb, thank you.
Good morning, Council. I bring to you today a Coffee with Council Policy 18-4. This is a communications policy. Following the Coffee with Council meeting in January, Council made a motion for administration to create a policy for this initiative. Policy includes guidelines for scheduling attendance, content items, reporting, and administrative procedures. The cost is internal only. Communications, we will build brochures and advertisements to communicate with the ratepayers what the intent of this initiative is, and customer service training, as they are the ones that are taking the bookings. Linked to strategic plan is communications, and the attachment is the policy for your review. The recommended action is to approve policy 18-4 as presented.
Is there any discussion to the policy? Thanks for your work, Deb. I appreciate this because it is nice to be able to meet with the ratepayers, but it is nice to be able to say something when we have the meeting, because there are a few things that we can't discuss at these coffee meetings. So I'm glad to see this here. Are there any comments from anyone?
I make a motion to approve policy 18.4, coffee with council as presented.
Thank you, Councillor McGee. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor to accept policy 18-4. All those in favor? And that is carried. 8.3, policy 18.1, communications policy. Anytime you're ready, Deb.
Thank you. I bring to you another communications policy. This is our overarching policy on communications, our very first one that we had, and this is a review. So as part of the regular policy review rotation, communications policy 18.1 is attached for review with recommended changes and additions. Changes include, the purpose should include Kneehill County as a whole, not just employees. As part of communications, we need to abide by all legislative requirements, not just FOIP, Freedom of Information. The Communications Department has been established since the creation of this policy, and so we've added that as support throughout the policy. And coordinated communications was added as we may be able to communicate more effectively if we work with our partners, including in emergency situations. Costs, this is an internal cost for the program. Communications, this policy will be on the website and internally throughout the organization. And the link to the strategic plan is communications, and the attached policy is there for your review, and the recommended action is to approve policy 18.1 as presented. Did you want me to go through the policy?
Well, these have been pre-circulated. If you want to go through the changes, Deb, that would be great.
Okay, I've changed in the purpose area, I just added that it is for officials and employees of the county, not just the employees. I've crossed out use public funds responsibly, as this is, we do this through the budget. It's not through this policy. These are guidelines, so we've changed number 2, listening to citizens. We've added effective citizen communications must address the needs and interests of our community. And again, with guidance of the Communications Department, we're encouraged to collect public input. Number 5, I've added with the support of the Communications Department, and number 6 as well. Number 10, spokespeople. The Reeve, or in his absence, the Deputy Reeve, are appointed as official spokespersons for Kneehill County. Upon authority of council, the CAO may be appointed as well. And this references, excuse me, a policy that we already have in place in regards to spokespeople. Number 12 is communicating in emergencies, and this is kind of just more clearly defined, as in emergency management, we have a designated information officer, and they are the ones that will be, I guess, communicating with the citizens to ensure that they receive the right communications through that Kneehill emergency management plan. We've added coordinating communications with neighboring jurisdictions, industry, and other partners. This is specific, again, to and through the crisis communications plan, just to work with partners to do some more joint communications if needed, and to comply with legislation, ensures that communications plans and activities comply with existing municipal legislation. And 15 I just took out because it's new technology, and we're constantly looking and adapting to new technology out there in communications. And it's an operational part of communications. It's the everyday job, so.
Okay, thanks, Deb. Are there any questions for Deb?
Just as a note, I will be bringing the public engagement participation policy next month. So that will describe a little bit more of how the request for decisions are going to be more impacted by that policy, the public participation policy. So that's going to be coming in April.
We wait with bated breath. If there's no questions, maybe we can have somebody move. Policy 18-1.
I'll move to receive policy 18-1 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Penner. Motion's been made. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we'll move on to 8.4, aerial photo joint project. Mr. Nyman, please.
Mr. Reeve, members of council, Terran Resource Services will be flying certain areas of central Alberta for aerial photography. They are currently planning on flying Stettler County, Red Deer County, Mountain View County, and they have approached Kneehill County to join as well. Kneehill County has had their ortho photos taken in 2014, and they are scheduled to be taken again in 2019. Our options are to join the other counties in the project, or don't join. The benefits is that we have a significant cost savings if we fly them as a group. Photos will be up to date for mapping and the planning needs, and then they will not be needed to be updated again until 2023. The total cost for this project is $58,000 with the money taken from the IT reserve. The IT reserve currently already has $70,000 in it for ortho photos, but it's scheduled for 2019, not 2018. The link to the strategic plan is Think and Act regionally. And the recommended action is council agrees to partner with Red Deer County, Mountain View County, and Stettler County to have orthos completed in 2018 with monies coming from the IT reserve.
Thank you, Mr. Nyman. So if we go ahead with this project, there will be significant savings in dollars if we do it a year ahead. And I think when we did it in 14, we were actually doing it a year ahead too, were we not? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, are there any questions for?
Are these photos available, say, for people doing their environmental farm plan and stuff like that, or is it just a county?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, these are open for the public to see, and they help with our planning and development department. Mr. Hogan.
Mr. Reeve and members of council, it's our long-term plan with the GIS department that eventually there will be a link through the website for ratepayers that'll have access to a base level of the mapping tools. Obviously, they won't have access to everything, but that they'll be able to go on the website, through the website, be able to actually pick up a map or an aerial photo of their farm or their land or for whatever purpose they have. That's the long-term plan. Probably over the next few years, we'll be working to make that link available. And another, we have our own GIS department, and we're kind of getting the infrastructure put in place. That should be available in the next, in the next year or two.
Thanks, Al. I think that's very positive because we're encouraging people to do their environmental farm plans, so just know their farms.
Are there any other questions?
Well, it seems to me it makes sense to save a little bit of money, so I would move that we approve the completion of the photos in 2018 and that we partner with Red Deer, Mountain View, and Stettler.
Okay, motion's been made, and you would include that comes from the IT reserve? Yes. Councillor King, okay, thank you very much.
Sorry.
No problem. All those in favor? And that is carried. I think we'll call a little bit of a recess here for top up the coffee cups. Thanks. Thanks, Will. Okay, I'll bring the meeting back to order. We are at 8.5, Strategic Priorities Chart.
Thank you, Mr. Reid, members of council. As a result of our February 2018 strategic planning session, council's priorities and operational strategies were summed up into the strategic planning chart. The strategic priorities chart should be reviewed regularly as a reminder of the organization's capacity to make adjustments, change priorities, and celebrate achievements. The changes recommended are in red, and items completed have a strike-through text. The attachment is the strategic priorities chart, and the recommended action is that council approve the strategic priorities chart as presented. Items 3 and 4 have been completed by council motion and are in progress, and some other timelines have been changed. And as you can see, we took the top of the list on the next as approved by council strategic planning and put them into now, and we've moved the top of the later into the next. Now, next, later.
Thanks, Al. Good thing we had notes in front of us to follow that. Are there any questions from council? Comments or concerns?
Well, I guess in terms of looking at what you have here, it makes total sense. If we took 2 off the top, we move the next 2 up, and the later just gets moved up. So I would say that what you've presented here makes sense based on what we said as our priorities. And so I would move that we approve the March 13th revamping of the strategic priorities chart as presented.
Thank you, Councillor King. We've got a motion on the table. Are there any questions or concerns from the council? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. We will go on to 8.6. Mr. Christie.
Could we have that recorded not as peace officer, but policing, so it's more general?
Okay, 8.6, community policing. Is that what we're here to discuss?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up community policing and to take a more, what do you call it, financial look at things as we move forward, whether community policing, not enhanced officer, but a second officer or enhanced officer, but where we have actual numbers, criteria, just sound information on where we're headed.
So that would be a motion to for information for policing for the 2019 budget cycle?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Is that how you'd like the motion read?
Yes, I think so. I think that would cover what I want to cover.
Okay. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And we are going to go to council and committee reports, 10.1, community futures.
I guess verbally with the minutes, I guess I can report that the loan uptake has been slow a lot in January and February. There's going to be some staff turnover. Things look like they're moving through their succession planning the way it should go, and we'll leave it at that, I think, for now.
Canadian Badlands. Just have the minutes here. Are there any questions? Deb, you have drum solid waste report?
We've met a couple of times here in February. February 9th, the executive met to discuss staffing and the HR policies and wages, etc. These topics came up because just to give you a little bit of history, when Drumheller Solid Waste started, they were part of Drumheller, and Drumheller looked after all of their staffing needs, paying them. That's because we only had one employee. And they had a very vague agreement with it. So we've been getting legal advice to try and sort this out, because now we have 8 employees and we would like to go back to doing all the HR stuff and that. So we're designing a HR policy. But at the regular meeting, we discussed the financials at length, and we do have a bit of a deficit. This is caused because of the downturn, and there's not as many tipping fees. So user fees got discussed at length. You would have heard maybe on the radio or seen in the papers, there's been some changes. There's not been an increase since the scale came in 1992. One of the major issues was county residents bringing a tandem load of household, which means they cleaned out someone's home and could haul it in for free because it was called household. That has changed for sure. They now have to pay $55 a metric ton, the same as everybody else. Before 0 to 150, a bag or 2 you got free, and then over that you had to pay $5. Well, now 0 to 250 you have to pay $5 if you drop it off at the Drumheller landfill. This is both for rural and urban. So it's out there. There'll be a big discussion at the next meeting too, but that's what the committee decided to do. The second major issue was with commercial and business garbage. They don't pay anything, and they feel that it's wrong, especially the town of Drumheller. But also when the towns within, the villages within even Kneehill County, they do not, it's all the counties, they do not say how many commercial businesses drop at the local transfer sites. So we're going to be dealing with that here too in the next meeting or so. The new disposal fees come in as of April 2nd. So we'll see if that helps the budget. But also during the meeting we discussed the TransStore replacements. We discussed 1 for Trochu and 3 in Starland County. They're approximately $109,000 each, and they should last 25 to 30 years. So we haven't made a motion to do it as yet, but they are on the radar very quickly here. And lastly, we'll be given a tour of the site as soon as the snow disappears here, and they can show us everything that is at our transfer site. Anyone got any questions? We are hoping that we don't have bags of garbage on the side of the road like some municipalities do out west. It seems like the citizens of Calgary and a few things are dumping garbage out in the west, and we don't want to have to go to what they're having to do with putting up cameras and things like that. It's very common drop-off spots. But really, it hasn't, like we said, there hasn't been an increase since '92, so is $5 a lot. But as a county, we do give Drumheller Solid Waste $200,000 a year. So I think we'll be discussing this in user fees.
Well, thanks, Councillor Penner. Do we have any more questions? If not, then maybe we can have a motion to receive for information.
I so move.
Thank you, Councillor McGee. Got a motion to move as information or receive as information. All those in favor? And that is carried. We'll go on to council follow-up action list. Are there any questions? Looks like they're all completed.
I'll move that the action list be received as information.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Christie. Got a motion on the table to receive as information. The council follow-up action list. All those in favor? And that is carried. We have some in-camera items to discuss. Is it legal? Legal. Could someone move us in camera, please?
I shall move we go in camera.
Councillor Kiever has moved to go in camera. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, I assume we're back online. Would someone like to make a motion to come out of camera?
I'll move that we return to open session.
Okay, back in open session. Could we have people that have been waiting come back into the chambers? Okay, seeing as how no one was waiting to come back in, I will adjourn the meeting at 11:02. Thank you, everyone.